Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 21st of February 2014. So in today's news, we don't have a great deal of length, but we do have a few very important topics. So first of all, we have the female dwarf model, and while this has been shown before, they officially added it to the website, showed us a 3D model and a few other things like that. Then we have some Warlords of Draenor information from a press event in Versailles in France, and then finally a little tidbit about the Battle.net shop. So first of all, the female dwarf model. Well, they basically showed it off on the site, and overall, I think it actually looks really nice. It conveys the dwarves' just sort of aesthetic and look pretty well, in my opinion. She looks stocky, but yet very strong, and, well, like you just punch you in the face if you pissed her off in a bar. So, yeah, hey, I think it's a very good model. Now, one thing I will say is the facial animations that they chose to show are perhaps a little bit too exaggerated to give you a full idea of what the character will look like normally. Honestly, I wish we just get a smiling face or maybe a full laugh animation cycle instead of just the one frame, because, well, have you ever looked at a person while they laugh, like a freeze frame of them? They really do, they do look rather silly. Yeah, so overall, I think it's quite a nice model, and you guys do let me know what you think about it. Then, Blizzard described the model as as her being a griffin-riding, ale-swilling, loud-living hero, and I think if that was their sort of design aesthetic intent for this model, they certainly did nail it. Another very good bit of news is that they also added icons on the Warlords of Draenor website for Blood Elves and Draenei. That is under the model section, so that's just continued confirmation that the Blood Elves and Draenei will be receiving model updates in Warlords. What we do know is that Goblins and Worgens will not initially, or at least that is the current plan, but they do plan on updating them in subsequent patches. Honestly, I think the Goblins look pretty okay, and the reason for that is that since they are a smaller character model, well, that means that the textures aren't as stretched out, so a texture of the same resolution is going to look a little bit more kind of high in density, if you know what I mean, on a Goblin, therefore making them look a bit better. The Worgens, however, are probably one of my least favourite models in the game. I just don't think they look particularly good, so it would be nice to see them fixed. Another thing that they said is that playable brown-skinned orcs are specifically not confirmed. It was a weird way to put it. Basically, they wouldn't say yes or no, but they did say that the reason that brown-skinned orcs were being shown off in some of the promotional material is because they're being made anyway for Warlords of Draenor. After all, the orcs on Draenor are brown-skinned because the demonic corruption hasn't happened yet. Though I wouldn't really be surprised if we did get to play a brown-skinned orc. I think that would be rather cool. Yeah, and then they also just said that they constantly want player feedback and that kind of thing, but right now their main intent is just to take what is currently in the game and then revamp that. So overall, I think interesting, and the more customization options that we do get with characters, the better, which I think is kind of obvious. Now for the next part of the news, and this is a very special bit actually. So this guy called Mammy Twink, who's a French World of Warcraft journalist, news person, was invited to Versailles along with a few other people to play some of Warlords of Draenor. Now he does have a full interview with Ian Hazzikostas, but that is not up yet. But what we do know is that he played Warlords of Draenor for 5 hours and he gave us his thoughts. Now there is a very significant spoiler. I'm not going to say that now, but I'm going to say it in the last maybe 20 to 30 seconds of the show, so I'll give you a warning, and then you can turn it off if you don't want to hear it, because it does spoil the story. So, yeah, first of all, he said that he played a gnome warrior in Shadowmoon Valley, which is the Alliance starting area. And after 5 hours of playtime, he had completed 80 quests and got to the end of the zone being level 92. He said that all the new models and races were, in his opinion, excellent, and that while he did end up creating a gnome, he had the option of creating a dwarf, and that he was very much impressed by the facial expressions. Of course, by the way, just because this is being Google translated, some of the English is a tad bit broken. At level 91, he said that he had 93,000 HP as a tank, which is interesting. I thought it would have been perhaps a little bit less than that, but yeah, whatever. Then he also said that monsters had in around 100,000 health. He said that, the actual thing, quote here is, "My wish inflicted between 1 and 5k non-critical damage, and then 10k for some critical hits like Shield Slam, so I think that just means his weapon was hitting for about 1k to 5k in terms of white damage, and then maybe 10k for a Shield Slam, and that kind of thing. Then he also said that to get from level 90 to 91, he needed 597,000 XP and 640,000 experience to get from level 91 to 92. Then he also said that quests are about 10k to 15k each, with hard quests being about 20k experience. He then also said that there's a new kind of quest in the game. It's called a bonus objective, and when you walk into an area, it may suddenly appear in your goals, and this just like appears, and if you perform it, then you can get some extra experience, and then if you leave, the objective will disappear. This is essentially a little bit like those events that you would see in Guild Wars 2, I'd imagine anyway. Of course, I very much doubt that he actually has video footage of this that he can show off. Then about Shadowmoon Valley itself, he said that it is made up of large fertile plains and that everything happens in the moonlight. The area is quite peaceful and it feels really good. He said that clearings and forests are very beautiful and colourful, and that it also contain narrows, cities, Draenor, and then Iron Horde strongholds. He then said that, in his opinion, the starting area was arguably very well complete, and that many details, including impressive vegetation and many different monsters, were included. He then also said that he found a lot of Burning Crusade mobs with revived textures and models. He said that Taburk were updated, so were turtles, larvae, boars, spore bats, wolves, and bears. He also said that he was specifically impressed by the new Talbuk, whatever, and spore bat models. So overall, very good. He then said that the starting area of the Alliance focus on the Draenor and the Iron Horde, with Ner'zhul being the main opposition force. The zone apparently ends with a scenario which he was not able to test, and since the name of the script for it is a spoiler, I am not going to talk about that now. He also said that he had an opportunity to hear some of the new music and he really liked it, and that his conclusion is that the area felt very well done, and it in fact consisted of vast plains and colourful glades, which was in his opinion very immersing, and it didn't feel deja vu, except for some of the monsters, which were a pleasant surprise for him. Now, there is a spoiler, and I'm not going to say it now. I will say it at the very end of the show, but it's a rather interesting spoiler. So the final bit of news for today is just the Battle.net shop, and this is basically completely thanks to MMO Champion, because I did not notice it. They said on MMO Champion that they noticed that the shop had been updated to include 3 games under the Game tab. However, when you actually go to the game section of the store, there are only 2 available. It also lists 8 services, yet there are only 7 available, so this looks like a solid hint that the level 90 boost and the Warlords of Draenor pre-order are essentially just about to be ordered or added to the store. So overall, I think that's a very interesting day of news. The Dwarf female looks great. I'm really happy to see the Blood Elves and Draenor be just kind of confirmed. I would like to see more customization options, and playable brown orcs I think would be very cool, so that would be great. And this Battle.net shop stuff, well, it confirms what we already knew. I'd say it's probably within the next week or 2, honestly. Now then, let's have a bit of a talk about this potential spoiler. Hey guys, Future Self here, and Past Self lied. It's not a potential spoiler, it is a spoiler. It's a really damn big spoiler. If you don't want to hear it, seriously, turn the video off now. This is your last chance. He said that Ner'zhul uses an evil force, the Terrors of the Void, and at the end of the zone you are fighting Ner'zhul, and that the latter manages to hijack a Naru in dark, and turn him into a dark Naru, and then to purify the Naru, ultra spoiler, 3, 2, 1, boom. Velen must sacrifice himself, he dies, it is a huge twist, and that the death is done through a cinematic. What follows is a huge battle in which you are joined by Narad, who you had previously liberated from Ner'zhul, and that you then go on to fight an army of the Iron Horde. You decimate the enemy, and the battle is a victory. So I hope I didn't do a major spoiler for you there, but frankly it is your own fault if you kept on listening, so take that, and hopefully the other zones will have plenty of other stories to tell us. Overall though, that does sound like a very, very interesting plot, and if they're going to have levels of that, stories of kind of like that magnitude going forward throughout the whole expansion, then I am very excited to see what sort of stuff it brings. It's also nice to see a bit of a darker story there, and that does make me happy. So anyway, that's it for the show. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.